everyone. Welcome to the latest episode, the Royal Rumble of Sweatpants and Strategy, where we focus on best practices, expert advice, everything SBA. I'm your host, just for this week, Dana, the Diamond Hirschkowitz. Some of you may know me as Dana Hirschkowitz from the Dana Company. The Dana Company is an executive search firm I started over 20 years ago, where we place champion candidates with national lenders. Now, let's get ready to rumble. I mean, have a conversation between men and women and how they're depicted in the SBA and business in general. Let's get started. Introducing my manager, Hirsch, the Beefcake Boy Brain Hirschkowitz. Today, we have 4 amazing experts, 2 women, 2 men, 4 different personalities, 4 stories, 4 different objectives. In this side of the screen, we have Kevin, the bruiser, Rafferty, and his partner, Tom, the closer, Hofstetter. Kevin steps into the ring with over 30 years of experience. He's currently the EVP at Paradise Bank and the SBA director. Tom, the closer, Hofstetter, is currently a partner at Shank Smith, Price & King. Tom is a closing and regulatory attorney representing 20 different banks. On this side, we have 2 amazing women. Stephanie, the powerhouse Dunn. You'll recognize Stephanie from my first episode. Her partner, Catherine, the incredible Walker. Currently, Catherine brings 30 years of experience. She is the SBA director at First United Bank. Let's get ready. Today, we're diving deep into men and women, how they're depicted in SBA and business in general. Let's get started. Everybody, thank you for being on my episode. How lucky am I? Look at this. I have like the royalty of SBA right in front of me. So you guys know, today we are talking about men and women, how they're depicted in SBA, and you know what, in business in general. I started actually doing some, statistic running, and I found some like interesting statistics, and I was actually surprised how low they were. So the first one, there's only about 9% of women who are CEOs in US banks. I thought that would be a little bit higher. More surprisingly, in C-suite positions, meaning, the CLO, CFO, there was only about 20 to 25% of women represented in that area. So I kind of do want to throw it out to you guys, thoughts about how we could bridge the gap, together on how to increase these statistics. So I'm thinking, let's go with the women first. Catherine?
Well, to me, the sign that there may be 25% of women in these positions means it's completely possible. So if a woman wants to get there, she can completely get there. So I think mentorship is key and making women really believe they can get there. And I think it's important for the women and the men in our industry to act as mentors and connect with these women, because they may not have the confidence to think they can get there, and to mentor them and encourage them and help them if they do want to get to that C-suite.
No, I agree. Definitely, I see it in, the younger generation, how, actually some will step forward. But mostly I see they're kind of like a little bit shy, and it has to take like a strong person to say, hey, let me do this for you. Let me get you to the next level. Steph, what do you think?
Yeah, 100% agree that mentorship is the key. And then also, the interesting component to our industry is new positions now are opening up that probably didn't even exist, 5-10 years ago, with all of the advancements we're making in technology. So I think for me anyways, when I was a young woman starting out in banking and in my early 20s, I didn't know what opportunities existed, what paths I needed to take to land into those opportunities. And there were very few. So, we're all competing for the very few seats. But now I think there's opportunity because there are more and more positions available that are presented that it may appeal to the younger generations.
I definitely agree with that. How many women are on your board? Catherine, how many women are on your board?
It's about 20%. And all the organizations I have been with, board members have represented about 20%.
Seth?
We have none.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is?
We're a smaller community bank, and when I think back to the 25 years that I've been doing this, there was probably one or two women on the board, so it was 95% men. And it goes back to the how many seats are available, and if there's one or two seats available for a board position, what are the odds that a woman applies and a woman wants the position and gets the position? So I've seen a lot fewer boards with 20% is probably on the higher end, but I've never seen more than that, not more than 20%. I mean, in a perfect world, it would be great to have complete representation and have a 50% board. That would be great. I would love to hear about banks that have a 50% female board.
I would join in on that conversation, and maybe we could dive in to see later how we can bridge that gap. All right, boys. I'm sorry, men. I'm sorry. Experts.
Okay. First of all, thanks for including me in this conversation. I think it's a really important discussion to have. I mean, I come from, a little different perspective, being, a partner in a law firm. I've seen how, and I've been in the banking industry in that context for a number of years. And I've seen, how things have evolved over the years. For instance, my law school, where I went to law school 10 years before I went there was no women allowed. And by the time I started law school there, it was 50% women. So it is part of an evolution where it has to get into the process. There were very few women judges. There were very few women bankers at that time. But in my class, we were equal. When I started in a big law firm and where I learned how to practice in the banking industry, it was there were some women in my law firm class, and they didn't even have a maternity policy in those days, and that's all evolved, in it. But so now, women do hold, key leadership roles in law firms, service providers, banking departments. So it is part of an evolution. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of challenges, and it's breaking down, lingering stereotypes and navigating, what has historically, been a male-dominated culture. So I think we all have a responsibility to work as partners and allies, and certainly, the word mentorship is very important. Like in my situation, I have I've been a partner in my firm for almost 25 years, and I'm kind of running my course. I'm looking at perhaps doing something else, but I have a protege, and that protege who will take over my practice is a woman. So in a sense, I've been her mentor, and I will be at some point passing the torch, to her. So it's been a part of my growth and evolution as well.
How did you approach her, or how did you start the mentorship?
Well, I mean, I recognized her. She was in a competing law firm. We had a significant client, which we still have, and she was getting half the work. I was getting half the work, and we decided to join forces. I had a lot more exposure and experience, and it was all part of the synergy. And it just seemed to be a very good place to start and expand. And together, we've grown the practice, and she will be well equipped to take it over and seek out her own protege, who likely will be another woman.
Fingers crossed. But also, coincidentally, Raph, when we were at Flagel a couple of years ago, you had Maria, who is actually, you're mentoring her too. So loved her, but how did that come about? Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, great. Thank you, Dana. Maria's not only my protege, I made her a partner. I handed the job to somebody younger, but the best qualified person just happened to be a woman. Maria joined us as an intern. worked in the credit department, just showed amazing organization skills. But as part of the mentoring process, I realized she had some unique talents. And part of the talents is what the upbringing that she had was perfect. The education, the upbringing. Somebody's got to come to the job work ready. So recognizing she has a unique skill set, I asked her, do you want to start slow or do you want to drink from the fire hose? She said, I want to drink from the fire hose. So I quickly identified her as somebody, and over time, we worked together. So I'm grooming her to not only take over the department, but I'm on the bank board, is to hopefully follow me in my board seat.
How long have you been mentoring her?
About 5 years.
What characteristics, Tom and Kevin, did you notice about these individuals that made you want to be mentoring them?
Well, in my situation, it was certainly, the ability to work in our industry, to have a relationship, with lending institutions. We're service providers, to be able to, meet the demands of, we're all in the SBA industry. It's fast moving, and you have to satisfy your clients' needs, demands, come in cost effectively. And I found in that situation, she was relatable. We worked in the same area. A lot of times we were on either side of a transaction, and I just thought she'd be a perfect partner to have to grow my practice.
Fair. Kevin?
I always start with character, starting with trust and integrity. That was certainly there. Next is performance. As to performance, I look for somebody with the ability to learn. As part of the gender, I trained some of the underwriters, young underwriters, and closers. And I find a lot of the men, they know everything, the young men. And some of the young women are just more of a sponge, absorbing things. Yeah. It's kind of shocking to me. I'm not proud to admit that, but that's been my experience.
Yeah. I mean, just to add on what Kevin's saying, I think one of the key things is breaking down stereotypes, with the legacy of a male-dominated culture. It's not always overt what these stereotypes are, but they're there. Everybody's got them. I think that's part of the process, is to define equal roles, and to see this. Maybe some stereotypes are assets, but that is an area that needs to be looked into carefully, whether they're real or whether they're, there's something that can add to the entire picture.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting for me because throughout all the employees I've had, most of the women have pretty much been happy in their roles, and they're not wanting to advance. Where do I go next? Now they want to grow and learn in their current roles, but hasn't been the same level of desire as my male employees have to, where do I get next? What's my development plan? How do I get to the next position? So, I think a lot of it is what percentage of women actually want to get to that C-suite. So, but we have in our bank a lot of talent assessment and really focusing on those employees and where they want to get. So if a female wants to get there and doesn't have maybe the confidence to focus on them and work with them to where they want to get.
Fair. Steph, what do you think?
Really, the emphasis for me has always been the best person for the job. And I think Kevin mentioned that earlier with his who he's mentoring. It comes down to, and I don't think as much about, all right, is it a male, is it a female, and those type of things. And I think as a society as a whole, over the last probably 5-10 years, we've really evolved and in training ourselves to think, who's the best person for this job and who could do this job at the highest level. And that is usually who ends up advancing. And it's a mutual advancement. They want to advance, they're the best person for the job. And then it becomes an opportunity that advances, and not so much advancing just because you're a male or a female. I think it's much more performance driven. And that probably is a result of the last 5 years in the post-COVID economy. And and the work from home and the changes and the shifts in work dynamics, it really has come down to now a lot of performance and who can provide the best results.
100% agree with you. Ever since the pandemic, people are more motivated to work, even the 3 to 5 space. And, individuals like ourselves just strive to be better, with the performance, with, skill sets. But believe it or not, though, like I don't want to say kids, but some of them still want to go into the office. They don't want to work remote, which I was kind of shocked by. My next question, I thought this could be really interesting. So we have 4 different people. In your career or how you got there, did you find any, oppositions or specific challenges to where you got to be today? Steph?
Well, I would say probably all of us on this call have been around for a minute. So I think we've had those experiences. When I started out in the business in my early 20s, it was a whole different world than it is today for 20-year-olds starting out in this business. And yeah, I mean, in my early 20s, I was told to only wear dresses or skirts, no pants.
Yep.
And I mean, could you imagine saying that today?
No, I can't. I mean, no.
Yeah, so I think we have thankfully evolved as an industry, but as a country and as an entire American workforce as a whole to what has become now a lot more diverse and inclusive. And so, yeah, times have changed. So we all have a little bit of memories of what it was like 25 years ago, but thankfully that is not the case today. So yeah, I certainly have a lot of different examples, but it was a long time ago.
On my 3rd podcast, I had Stephanie and Allie Schwant, the mother-daughter. And so basically Stephanie, 30 years in the industry, worked for, I think it was Temecula. And in the handbook, it said, you can only wear this color suits, you can wear this color makeup. And it just shows you how far, definitely how far we've come. And, when she commented that, I was like, wait, what? Like, what is that? So I was actually really, really, really surprised. Catherine, what do you think?
That's where we were together. So I started my career with Stephanie Schwant, and this is, 25 years ago. And even like corporate retreats and company gatherings were usually, the main activity was usually a male-dominated activity. Like we'd have a company fishing trip. And so here are all the young girls on this fishing trip, not quite sure, how do we carry ourselves? What are we doing here? How do we socialize in this environment? So yeah, it's a lot different today where corporate retreats are not necessarily, surrounding a male activity.
You know what? You're right. I mean, I remember my first NAGLE conference and I was invited out on a foursome, golf foursome. I showed up, I don't even remember, in like jean shorts and a t-shirt. And at the time I was working for Unity Bank, I'm not going to mention the person, but he was like, Dana, went back, changed, and super embarrassed. But again, it's, 25 years before and super confused, super intimidated. But, I got the gist and now I dress appropriately. Catherine, what do you think?
I've been in the industry 30 years now, and I don't feel like it's been that difficult being a female in a male-dominated industry. Now, granted, when I first started, I was definitely often the only women in meetings, and it was noticeable. I mean, you knew it. You were cognizant of it as a 20-something-year-old. But I did find that it could be an advantage. I mean, a competent woman in a room full of competent men may stand out a little more, and you're noticed. So I've always, and I had a really good mentor. My first president of the bank, just from the beginning, thought you can do anything you want to do. So that was instilled early. So I never saw any issues with getting to where I wanted to get, honestly. So, but yeah, it has changed a lot. I mean, obviously there's a lot more women in all of the meetings and rooms. But I don't feel like it's been very difficult.
No,
No.
I would, yay for you. You know what I mean? But most of the women I interact with, or, we go to these conferences and, male dominated, I don't know, it's an uphill battle. I feel like being a woman in our industry, being an attractive woman in our industry, yes, it does play, it could be good or it could be bad. So I definitely feel like there's more male recruiters out there where they have more opportunity as to a woman, then you're going to get categorized as, oh, how'd she get that business? Or how did that happen? It's just, for me, it was a little bit of a cycle. And now I'm thankfully got to that plateau where I don't care what people say. I really don't. And I know the truth. So, but it's basically, yeah, those are my challenges. That's what I had. But Rafferty, Tom, what do you think?
Well, I mean, the good old boys club, I don't think is just, it isn't just a phrase. I mean, it has been an obstacle for women. Steph pointed out, in certain activities such as golf, for instance. I mean, there's in my firm, we do have a women's initiative, and they're actually encouraging women to take up golf. There's women in lending organizations. So there's a lot more support groups out there that encourage women to become part of these traditional, male, activities. And I think that's really kind of helped, the process. It's just recognizing, that these exclusive networks are there, and these are ways to perhaps, dismantle them and bridge whatever gaps that are there. And I mean, you go to like a Nagel golf outing now. It's still, male dominated, but there's certain groups of women that go out, and I certainly enjoy playing golf, with women. But I think that's again just part of the evolution, and I think women need to be encouraged to pursue those types of activities. In the same token, men need to recognize that they have to be more inclusive, and I think that's happening. I really do.
Over the last couple of years, yes. But I feel like sometimes, like, you have a big rock, right? And you're like chopping, 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 but you're not getting anywhere. I mean, that's just sometimes how I feel, but encouraging.
I mean, you go, I mean, I think there's a lot of progress being made, out there. I mean,
No,
it's much more inclusive than it had been, especially in banking. You're getting, just look at our industry, the SBA industry. You have women now. Again, it needs to go more, but you have some very big lenders out there that are run by women, and they're running key positions. You never had that before.
you
And
you
you
did
look
it.
at, well, and you look at the people that are coming up, and you see it with your service providers, you see it with law firms. I think it's just part of the natural progression, and it's happening. It really is.
No, I agree that it's happening, but we still have a stigmatism of just something blocking us. It's this thing, and I can't, as many times as we can, not attack, come together. I still feel like there is a big stigmatism, and we need to get through.
Well, yeah, but I would say somebody like Catherine or Steph, I mean, they're at the stages in their career that likely they're going to be the president and CEO of their bank someday. And I've, I fully believe that's going to happen. That's just part of the process.
No, I believe that too. Raph, what do you think?
Well, we talked about the evolution and not only women, but it's happening in management. The management style, what you dealt with 25 years ago was you do this or you're out of here. Everything's more inclusive. I would encourage women just to be more confident in what they are and their abilities. And the more we get past that, we're looking for talent. It doesn't matter the gender. It doesn't matter the age. There's age discriminations. There's look biases. So I think the more confidence people have, but we have to unbiased different things. I can tell you from my experience is with my daughter. When she was born, we had a gender unbiased. You don't teach them you can be a nurse. You can teach you can be a doctor. They can be an astronaut. They can be the president. And that's the way she grew up, and she's very confident in dealing in. She's in the medical field as a physician's assistant, but dealing with doctors and her PAs, she's very confident in her ability.
It's come a long way, definitely. It's funny because when I was going through the statistics, another challenge women face are other women. The American Bankers Association, where I got this information, says they play in the boys' club or they play and champion other women. And I've definitely faced that. Have you faced that, Steph, Catherine? Where you've been challenged by another woman and no matter what?
I hate to say this but I have had probably more challenges with women than men. And oh my gosh, that's such a generalization. I shouldn't say that. But honestly, I do feel like I've been championed more and supported. I look at the mentors and the people that have in my career, and it has been more men than women. And, you know, I have come across women who are maybe resentful of other women that are moving up. And that's that's a shame. And again, that's not prevalent and happened a whole lot, but I mean, it has happened a few times. And you have a point. Women need to champion other women and not see them as competitors.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was absolutely, I never really thought about it, but I've been in many situations where, I hate to say it, that yes, I have been challenged and, sometimes I fell to the challenge. I didn't succeed.
Man, this is such a difficult topic. I'll tell you what. Oh boy, let me stretch. This is such a difficult topic for me because you know what you said earlier? I'm middle-aged now, and the older I get, the more I just speak my mind because I say, you know what? I'm just going to tell it like it is, man. Real talk. And I have to say this. When I first started in my career, that was the case because there was, call it a board of 10 positions, and we're going to open up 1 or 2 seats to the women. And it was like on paper that they would say, okay, well, there'll be 1 or 2 positions that will allow women to be in management, and they pit us against each other. And so we're all competing for the 2 seats that they're allowing the women to fill. And this started, years and years and years ago. So women, unfortunately, had to be competitive because we were competing for the 1 or 2 seats in management that were available. Because it was back then. I mean, this was years and years ago when they came out with the affirmative action movement, and corporations were mandated to have X number of women in management. Like there were mandates, right? So then if they were only allowed to have a couple of women in management, they pit us against each other. And I think that was the beginning of the competition amongst women, which is really unfortunate. I don't think that's the case anymore, but women in the business, unfortunately, could be more competitive with each other and really shouldn't. I mean, that's what we were saying about the importance of mentorship in today's day and age. I think today you see a lot more women helping women advance and camaraderie, which is great. And I chuckled earlier, Tom, when you talked about, we have programs to encourage women to golf. And I chuckled because you're right. We're teaching women to adopt to the male activities. Why don't you guys learn the male activities and then you can come to the club? I mean, I lived in Chicago, guys. And in Chicago, we would have corporate retreats at these golf courses where women weren't even allowed to play. I had to wait in the clubhouse.
What? When was this?
So I'm sitting by myself at the clubhouse while all my colleagues are out there playing. Yeah, women were not allowed on the course. And look at Augusta. They have a few women now, but so yeah, you know what my dream is? Yeah, one day be a bank president and the corporate retreat will be like cooking classes and paddleboarding, you know.
They should have that at Nagel.
Yeah.
They should incorporate. We need to call Tony Wilkinson and say, guess what? We need a cooking class. Yeah. I'm sorry. Got excited.
And paddleboarding and pickleball, retreats.
But I think, Rafferty and Tom are pretty easygoing, and I think they would be the first ones on that list.
I think so. They'll champion those.
Definitely.
I would love to be in a cooking class, but believe me, I think that's a great idea. Or pickle. Well, actually, Nagel has introduced pickleball at their conference.
Awesome.
Yeah, but count me in. You have a cooking class, I'll sign up.
Deal.
Yeah,
So and even I have to say, as a woman in the financial sector, I really have had to work my entire career to tone down being a woman. I have to be very conscientious about how I'm dressed, and am I being too outgoing, because I don't want that to be misconstrued as, she's interested in me.
No.
So we do have to be composed and conservative, and really always just aware of being very just conservative, especially in social environments. When you go to these retreats and everyone goes for a drink afterwards, I always am aware of being conservative and trying to tone down personality, not to be too bubbly, because that is misconstrued.
Can I tell you something? I've been, you guys all know me and how outgoing and fun and positive I am. It's unfortunate that my personality, it has been misconstrued, where people think I'm acting a certain way, where I have a good heart and I'm fun and I'm friendly and I'm always first person to step up and say, how can I help you? But it's unfortunate that we have to tone that down and then get judged for being a certain way, which I really hate. It's unfortunate, really. But I get what you're saying. Totally.
Therein lies the problem. A lot of the C-suite jobs are going to the aggressive person, and that's unfortunate. The men may be more willing to interrupt, demand the position, ask what they want, and women feel they have to hold back. And unfortunately, that may hinder their how fast they advance.
Well, I mean, there's two types of people in this world: spectators and pitchers. So you could be a pitcher and you're going to run the game, or you could be a spectator and just sit there and get nowhere. So I have been a pitcher. This has been a dream of mine to do this podcast and owning my own business. So we're moving places. It's just that we need to encourage women to do the same, instead of, us lacking behind in certain personality skills. You just got to champion them, like I said before, but, you still have the challenge. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, that cooking class sounds better all the time.
I know. I mean, last week I had a recap of Nagel, and, it was the 40th anniversary, and, I had on two excellent guests, and, I asked them that's a really good question, guys. I'm sorry, Stephanie, you weren't there, but the Nagel's 40th anniversary, was it any different than any other Nagel? The sessions or the networking events? Did anything pop out of your mind where it was so different? No. What would you guys change about the next conference? If, Tony Wilkins said, open the door and said, hey, let's go change some stuff and let me suggest some things. What kind of ideas would you bring to the table? Steph, that cooking class where we, bring in more women and support them and include them more.
Well, and it's probably just getting to know people. Like we said, real talk, do you want the conservative facade, or do you really want to get to know me as a person to determine if me as a person, I am a good fit for, this initiative? I think it would be a really interesting environment if we were able to remove the facade that a lot of us have to put on, just because, when you're a loud, outspoken woman, guys, believe it or not, being a loud, outspoken woman in this business, not very many people will like you.
No, they won't. And that's where it comes into play, where the other women who are playing in the boys club will attack, 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 attack. No, I'm sorry, but I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it like that. They are absolutely one of the first to judge you in a certain way, not including the men. I feel like that if you are outspoken and bubbly, there is a challenge from the other side of, of women.
No, you did fine, but there's confidence and there's competency, and just let those two shine. That's what I would suggest.
That's Raph, I agree, but I also agree, kind of like Stephanie, what you were saying. How great would it be if we actually said what we wanted to say instead of being so politically correct? In this world today, can you imagine if people were outspoken enough? And I think that's one of the ways we could bridge the gap with women. Have them, encourage them and say what you want to say instead of being so shy, I guess we'll use the word. Women take on more responsibility because they have a family. And I know all of us have kids or grown or anything else. Did you guys feel that there was a balance of a work-life balance when you had a family?
I mean, I can say, yeah. I mean, one of the things, again, what we're talking about does extend beyond, the work environment. And, I still, I'll go to a dinner party, right? And it'll be couples at a dinner party. And at the end of the dinner, the women get up and just start cleaning. And I feel very uncomfortable just sitting there with the guys, and they just won't get up and help out. And I just,
do you, Tom? Do you
I
get up?
do. No.
Good for you.
I
He's
get
the
up.
guy that gets up.
I get
I'm
up.
hanging out with you.
I'm gonna
No, but I do feel comfortable, and then I get some grief from some of these guys, and but I don't think it's right. I know. I mean, that's how I was brought up. I mean, some of it is my own personal background. My father, he grew up without a mother, and he always taught me to respect women. And if I ever raised my voice at my mother, it was hell to pay for my father. So, I mean, that's sort of in my DNA, but it's just not equal. Also, my experience going to a competitive law school with 50% women, and my first boss and many of my bosses over my career have been women, and I've learned a lot from them, and I've respected that role.
You are truly one in a million. Well, I'm sorry. You and Rafferty. Raph.
Oh, I help. I cook at home.
I know you and Connie, like, they make the cutest couple. I mean, when we were at dinner, you guys are like such a great couple. They're so in love and they support each other. It's hard to find that these days.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Steph, what do you think about the work-life balance?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly, so I was on the fast track, in my 20s and then in my 30s and climbing the corporate ladder and just like you, Catherine, tons of opportunity. Whatever I wanted to work for, I could work for. I had never felt held back. But then I had kids later in life, and my own personal revelation was, okay, now I have children. I don't necessarily want to be on the road all the time. I want to be home for my kids, but I don't want to give up my career. So there is certainly a balancing act that I had to do as a woman and as a mother now, that I couldn't just focus 100% of my effort and attention on my career and advancement. Now I had to focus on, okay, marriage and children, and I had to find that balance. But look, as much as we want to say work-life balance, when you're a mom and there is no work-life balance, the kids will always have priority over career. I mean, that's real life. Look, whether we want to tell our boss that or not, but if my kid's home sick, I have to go get my kid who's sick. Like, that's my number one priority. So yeah, I've had to balance my career and I've had to refocus my priorities. And then you start to, the reality is you start to maybe just pump the brakes a bit on seeking out that next promotion, because I don't necessarily want to work 100 hours a week anymore and be on at the airport 7 days a week. Like I did that for a long time. I mean, there were some years where I was on the road for like 300 days a year. You can't do that anymore. That's just not real life anymore. So yeah, there is a shift when you have children, and especially when they're young, where you have to pump the brakes on the career to focus on that. But then later in life, here we are, where the kids are grown up, then you come back and you have to think through, okay, now what are my goals from a career perspective? And I'm looking for something more. So I think women do go through a pause in their careers during that time. And conversely too, the company knows this. The company knows if you have young kids, you probably won't be as available as your male counterparts who can go to those meetings across the country. So,
coming back from maternity leave, I've heard from, a couple of my candidates how, they've been on maternity leave, and it's funny, towards the end, I would say I've spoken to like 4 or 5 women who are coming off of their maternity leave and they're looking for another job. And I said, well, what's going on? And they're going back to the office. And that's when, they're looking for a remote position. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Well, Catherine, you have a son, correct?
Yes, I have a son and a daughter. So
you do?
my
Cool.
20, yeah, my son's 25, my daughter's 22. So it was a while back. But again, I guess I don't, maybe I was unusually fortunate. But I was running a department, working, crazy hours, and knew I was not going to do that once I had kids. I told my boss, the president of the bank, before I even got pregnant, I'm going to start thinking about having kids, and I am not working like this. And he completely supported me. And I said, I want to shift to contract. I'm going to go out on my own after kids. And he supported me. He had me hire my replacement, hire my replacement. And then I switched to training them, getting them acclimated once they started. And then I started doing contract work for them, ended up doing basically my own LSP for a dozen lenders in Dallas, for many years. So for me, it was phenomenal. I was completely supported in that role. And then when I was ready to come back to the bank, my bank had sold, they were starting up a new division. And they told me, if you get this started, we know you have kids, as long as you work, in the office 2 days a week, as long as you take care of business, we don't care where you are. So and that was probably unusual for back then to have that much support in shifting that, but it worked phenomenal. But I think that kind of mindset is probably more prevalent today than it was 26 years ago.
Oh God, 100%. There's been, when I started the Dana company, I was coming off of a divorce. Nowhere was he present. And so I had a newborn by myself with a new business. And so I, Stephanie, like yourself, I had taken off, a couple of years obviously I had to, because there was nobody there helping me. So doing that work-life balance for the first couple of years, it like almost killed me. And then as she got older, then, you come back into the industry. And I think like my first NAGLE conference was when she was like 5 or 6. I had taken off many years and, I didn't want to do it, but handling a family, being the mother, being the father, being a chef, being a chauffeur. It's so many different roles that I see many women do, but it was a struggle. I'm not going to lie, but definitely today where you start to grow your business and, they are older, it gets better. And thank God I had, clients that championed me and encouraged me and Raph, I've known you for over 25 years. Tom, I've known you over 25 years. Steph, I've known you a lot longer. And, Catherine, we just met in Vegas. Whatever stays in Vegas doesn't happen in Vegas. I'm just kidding. We had fun. But that was part of my struggle. So, I mean, thank you. Actually, I wanted to say thank you to Raph, Tom, Steph. Thank you for being like so 100% with me on this. So what do you guys think? Work-life balance, children.
Dan, I like to call that the second shift. And that may be why we have some of the disparity at the C-suite. Speaking from the opposite side of the second shift, my wife's a registered nurse. When we had kids, she wanted to be a home mom. That was her goal, not to pursue in medical, but to be the homeroom mom and take care of the grandkids, which she's doing now. But as a result, I had to work harder. It was that. So we feel the second shift as well. So that's more of the guy's perspective. The women who do it, amazing. I've had success hiring single moms because boy, are they efficient.
Oh man, they're
They
gonna
have
work
to
for you.
do
So yep.
before work, after work. I could not do what I do without a very successful and supportive wife, because she's picking up the dry clean, taking care of the kids, so I can afford to work more hours and focus. So yes, I go home, take care of sick children, never miss a little league game, parent teacher. But the second shift is a team effort, and it takes both sides.
It is. That's a really like both sides of the coin kind of thing when you do have children. Tom, you have a couple kids, right?
Yeah, they're older. I mean, they're in their 30s, but there is something to be said about, trying to equalize. But there's only certain things that a mother can do. It seems that with their children. I know in my personal situation, I'm in a partner in a big law firm, and the demands of being a partner in a law firm are great. And the work-life balance was, my daughter had a learning disability, and that burden really kind of fell on my wife to take to special classes and things like that. I mean, it ultimately worked out great, but it was there were certain things that really that only she could do in her role as a mother. And I don't know if you can overcome that. I see my daughter, and my daughter's married, a son-in-law, and they've been able to. My daughter, she has 3 children, and she's just got over maternity leave. Just started back to work. She works in Manhattan. Her husband works in Manhattan, but now he's on paternity leave
Like
to allow the adjustment for her to go back to work. And then the beginning of the year, they both go back to work together, and they're gonna try to equalize it. She has to go into her office 3 days a week. He only has to go into the office 2 days a week. Fortunately, they're successful, and they can afford help. They have a nanny and those kinds of things. But those are the kinds of things that I didn't have. It was My law firm wasn't that understanding. If I was going to be a partner in the law firm, I had to bill 2,200 hours a year. I had to be in all these committees. I had to do all this kind of stuff, and there's no way I could have fulfilled those roles. But like Kevin, I coached baseball, I coached soccer. I went to all of the concerts that they were in. So I did as much as I could, but I probably couldn't have done that all at the same level that I was required to do at that time. On the other hand, my protege, my partner, she's my partner, who's going to ultimately take over my practice. She has twins, and her girls are like about 12, 13 years old right now.
yeah.
And now she's going to be able to step it up more. And that was part of the plan, that she didn't put in as many hours, and I was okay with that. She retained a partnership in the firm. And now, as I transition at some point, she will be able to step it up because she was able to devote those years. And we in my firm, supported, me, my practice, and her on that endeavor. So that is a change, and that is part of the so-called evolution.
It is part of the evolution, because I hear more and more often how husbands are getting paternity leave, and it's like for 2-3 months. And it's also changed in the fact that I feel like there's more of a partnership now between men and women because the companies allow it. Whereas back in the day, you're like, work, 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 kids. So, but I'm glad it changed. I mean, Steph, right? I mean, you have the twins, so
Yeah, I don't. Paternity leave didn't exist when I had my kids. Yeah. I
No?
don't know. Yeah.
Aren't they 11?
Yeah.
9.
And
No,
it was
10, 10, 10,
years
11,
ago.
11.
I think paternity leave probably just started maybe in the last 5 years. I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
Correct me if
that's
I'm
true.
wrong.
But when you were coming, while you were pregnant and then again coming back, was it obviously back then you kind of like had to be like going into it and, forging forward.
Yeah, that's the thing. I worked for, national banks, and our requirement was, I mean, in the job description, it said 75% travel. So it was a different gig. And so that's the thing. When you come back from maternity leave, you can't do that 75% travel anymore.
No.
So inherently you have to change roles. And so
and also with companies, changing, we have again 4 different people. How do you think has your company, or if you've worked for a company, how did they change the policy, with paternity and maternity? Did anything, obviously it's been forward thinking, but think about that. Back in the day, Tom, you've been with the firm for a long time.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's evolved, and it evolved by women becoming, members of our management committee. You know, many, women have had children, and the realities of that have set in, and also the pressures. We're a big law firm, so we do a lot of government work. We do, a lot of work for major corporations and banks, and they all track. We have to fill out reports every year about the diversity in our firm, and we're not going to get government contracts. We can't represent some of the money center banks if we don't have a certain diversity ratio in that. So that's forced us to look deep at it. We have diversity training. We've studied what other corporations do, and so we've evolved, and we recognize it. But having said that, okay, when the concept you've introduced, paternity leave. I know, talking to other, male, bank managers, for instance, and they are somewhat resentful when their staff, their younger men are taking paternity leave, and in their mind, they're kind of holding that against them. And I can tell you that that's happening still. So that has to evolve also.
The insight of, I think, not, I don't want to say the younger generation, but people not our age, in their mid-20s, early 30s, are going to have that advantage of staying home. And I feel like some managers, I agree with you, Tom, they are sticklers and they look at them like, well, why did you get that advantage and I didn't get that advantage? So that
Right.
there's a little bit of that out there.
The banks might have a policy, but it's in their mind that they don't like the fact that that guy, and it seems to be the maternity leave aspect seems to be generally accepted, but the paternity leave is still not well settled yet. I can tell you that. I've had recent conversations where they're not happy that their AVP, their assistant, is off for 2 months or whatever. But my son-in-law, he's off for the next 6 weeks, and he works for Paramount, major corporation, and that's fine. It's not going to hurt his career.
Well, too bad, so sad. They're just going to have to get it. So let's just go with that. Wait, Raph, how long have you been with Paradise? So we met, I placed you at TD, and then you moved to Paradise, right?
Correct. Been started the department 14 years ago.
Okay, so within that 14 years, what's changed in terms of the paternity and maternity policy?
I celebrate the bigger corporations to have the paternity. I think it's great. As a community bank with 52 employees, many more girls and boys, or women than men, particularly in childbearing age, we don't have that. For small businesses, paternity is difficult. But I do celebrate the bigger companies that can have that.
They have that advantage.
Can have it, yeah.
Catherine, does your company, how long have you been with First United?
4 years.
Okay. And then previous to that, you started 5 SBA shops to startups, anywhere in that, actually probably maybe within the last 15 years, have you seen a change in the policies of paternity?
Sad to say, but I don't think our company has paternity leave. I mean, I guess I don't have any young man employees in that age range, so I don't know, but I don't think we do. And I think it is, like Tom said, the bigger companies that are offering longer maternity and adding paternity leaves. I don't think I've seen that. And I've been pretty much with community banks, my entire career. So I think that's a little bit different, like Kevin said, than the large companies are kind of at the
That's fair.
of
Yeah,
those.
my firm gives 5 months,
What?
Wow.
Yeah, 5 months.
What?
Yep.
Wow.
I'm gonna come work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. My
Let's
daughter,
go work for him.
my daughter just got off. She had worked for Twitter before Elon Musk took it over, and she had 6 months. But now her new company,
Wow.
she gets 4 months. Yeah.
That's
My
crazy.
son-in-law got, I think, 5 months. He's not taking it all, but he got 5 months paternity.
Wow.
5 months paternity.
Yep.
I think and granted, I ended up switching and going to, out on my own at that point in time. But I swear, I think maternity leave was like a couple weeks back then.
4 weeks.
What?
Yeah, I had
What?
4 weeks.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I think I mentioned when I first started in a big law firm, they had no maternity. Paternity was not even a concept, but they didn't even have there was a woman in my class who got pregnant, and the firm didn't know what to do because they didn't have a policy.
Well, I did start working immediately because I started my own thing. So I was in the delivery room before I was on my laptop, and I was on the phone with the bank CEO, and he said he had 5 kids, and he said, "Catherine, what the heck are you doing? Get off your computer, hang up your phone, and go have a baby." And I'm like, "What? I have time." I mean, I was definitely a workaholic, and so as soon as the baby was born, I started working again. But having that flexibility of when I did it was incredible to get to having the flex schedule.
That was when you started your own thing?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely feel like having your own thing, and it allowed me the freedom to be, both father and mother. But if I worked for an organization, oh, forget it. 4 weeks, I've seen it, but
Norway, the maternity and paternity leave is 6 months each, and they want you to alternate so the baby has a parent with them for the full year. But we have 350 million people, and I think you're somewhere around 7 million, and they have a sovereign fund from all the oil reserves. It's about $250,000 per person. But when you look at difference of lifestyle, we're programmed to work hard. That's our culture. We're capitalists, serial capitalists. Their economic life, I think, is like 6 or 7 years more than ours, the mortality rate.
that's crazy. That's
kind of interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, that actually I didn't think that we get started on this topic, but it's amazing. Like, Catherine, you didn't have anything, and Tom, how you guys came all the way from having paternity leave. So that's refreshing, good to know, all that other good stuff. Before we wrap up though, my main question at the beginning of the episode was how men and women are depicted in today SBA. What do you guys think? How are women in your minds? How are they represented in the SBA? And Catherine, how do you think women look now? And then also the flip side, your opinion about men in our industry. Ladies first.
I mean, I think our industry is pretty well represented by women. And when you go to these NAGLE conferences, I mean, a good percentage of the speakers
are women.
Sessions. We have Jane Butler. We have, I mean, so many of the top women. You have Kristen,
amazing. Yeah.
At these conferences, it may be even more women than men actually in numbers that are on the stages, that are doing the training, that are doing the speaking. So I think as a young woman coming into this industry today, I mean, I think it's so encouraging because you're seeing these strong women in these positions of, authority and influence that is very, very positive.
Oh
Super
yeah, and then
positive.
absolutely, you hit like pretty much women run the Nagel organization. Tony's he's the chief, but he's everybody almost his entire staff is women.
Yep.
Kristen Grancelli, Margarita, Rachel Zippenwalt. I mean, they're just wonderful, wonderful people, and they bring people out. And they, also with Nagel, they have a great mentorship program that actually both Catherine and I are involved in. And Catherine, you've been a mentor to men, correct?
Yes, 2 years. This is my second year in being a mentor, and I've been with men both times, and it's wonderful. I mean, and they both are just so driven, both getting to the next level, and it's been great. I would love to do it with the female and get to encourage them. But your mentee is a woman,
Yeah,
correct?
my mentee is a woman, but I think that just speaks to the where it's gone, where you have a woman in a high place like Catherine now mentoring men to do what she did, in her career.
I guess then, actually, that's a good segue in closing. We definitely want to bridge the gap from, we want to make it more than 9%, make it more than 20 to 25%. What do you think is, the one thing that we can do to bridge the gap to increase the percentage in the statistics for women to advance?
Well, I'll jump in. There's the evolution in the SBA culture is, I think, well ahead of corporate America. I've been in the SBA space for some time, and at the loan officer BDO level, it was predominantly men. It's not that way today. The underwriters, the only disparity that I see is in the closing department. Probably 95% women.
100%.
Women, if there is a gender war, I think women are winning. In the young women cohort from 25 to 34, they have a 47% graduation rate versus 37. That 10 points is huge.
Huge.
Men were much more at the graduate levels. The women have passed them at the graduate levels, are putting more MBAs out there. They're now putting more doctorates out there. So the evolution process has started. It's accelerating. We've seen it in the SBA space, and I think it will continue on to corporate America.
I agree. Catherine, what do you think? What's the one thing that we can do together?
I mean, I think the leaders, both men and women, need to either mentor or, I mean, not through necessarily formal programs, but I think seek out women to encourage. And I mean, I do think there's still women, there may be less confidence and ability to know how to get to those next levels. And if they want to, they see it happening, but maybe not as aggressive on themselves without that support, reaching out and asking for that next level. So I do think it's up to us at the senior management levels to seek that out and find out if there are women who want to get to that next level, but just have not been assertive enough to make it happen for themselves.
Yeah, and I would just like to sort of close. Stereotypes and legacy cultures, they only persist when we allow them to. So I mean, I think what we can all do is actively question, challenge, and replace outdated norms, and that's all part of this evolution that does seem to be working. We talked about the golf versus a
Cooking class.
in school, whatever, with included, have inclusive practices, to shape an industry that reflects the value of fairness and collaboration. It's not just about giving, a woman a seat at the table. It's about building a table where every voice is heard. That's valued equally. Where we work together as equal partners, and where we're not just creating a stronger industry, we're just building better future. I'm just talking globally.
No, all of you hit so many great points, and this has been by far like the best episode. I mean, other people, but it is the best episode. We went to places where I didn't think we could go. You guys were forthcoming. Thank you for being that. You were forthcoming and honest. Unfortunately, I didn't have to throw the flag, but maybe next time. But thank you guys for being on my podcast. This has been actually it's been great. I can't believe how lucky I am to know you guys. Thank you.
It was a
Thank
pleasure.
Thank you. It's been
Dana.
really
My
fun.
pleasure.
I was a little afraid, honestly,
be.
coming in of,
How
oh
come?
boy, what is Dana going to push us to
Mm-mm.
to address? So I was a
Yeah.
little nervous of what
Yeah, when
might
I saw
come out
you
of
in the
my mouth,
referee's
but
suit, that really gave me a little pause when I.
Well, you guys know I like to have fun.
Yeah.
It's good fun and it's fair fun. And when it isn't a battle of men versus women. It's, Tom, you said it. It's about how men and women can help, increase those statistics and come together and overcome, a male dominated, industry. So no, it's just fun. You guys know I like to have fun, but it was great. Thank you guys
Catherine,
so much.
I was afraid too. I brought my own attorney with me.
I would never do that to you guys. I just like to have fun. I was good
You
at
did
dinner. I didn't do
fantastic, Dana.
anything.
You
What,
did
Rob?
fantastic. You did great.
Thank you.
You did.
Very
Good,
well
Yeah.
done.
good show. Good show.
Thanks, guys. And I look forward to hopefully, we could do this. I'd love to do this again on a different topic. If you guys want to see anything, I am so open. So this was a good foursome. Thank you, guys. So on this week's episode, I gave Hirsch 2 wrestler nicknames. If you can tell me, comment below who those wrestlers were, I'm giving away an unlimited edition Dana Company sweatshirt. Now, on a personal note, this week's episode was not only about men and women, but the outer lining of wrestling. I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to be Miss Elizabeth. I don't know if you guys know who she is, but it was a dream. And when I was little, my mom used to take me to these wrestling events, and I just wanted to mention her because I constantly think about her and my dad all the time. She passed away when I was really young, but I love them both, and I just wanted to mention them, and I miss them every day. I loved going to wrestling events, and this week's episode has been so much fun. How much fun was this week's episode? If you guys liked what you saw, please like, subscribe, and comment. I'm also looking for ideas on future podcasts. And also, if you want to be a guest, just comment below. Thank you for tuning in on this week's Royal Rumble. Oh, I'm sorry. Discussion about men and women. And I'll see you guys next week.